we're now on Membeis Omid Beis and Meislo Yerushena. No, since he explicitly prohibited his son from being nena from his nechasim even after his death, then Lo Yerushena. The son would not have rights to benefit from the Yerusha. So we see explicitly that a person could create an Isra on his nechasim that would extend and Bichal even after his nechasim left his rishus. And from that explicit Mishnah, it makes it impossible that Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish would reject this. So first, the Gemara tries to reject the proof from the Mishnah in Bava Kama and insists that we could still say that the Machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish applies even in the case of nechasim elu alecha, where he did not add nechasai, that are their mine. And this would generate an Iser upon his friend even after Shvius emerges. And a person could create an Iser Neder that will continue even after his possession terminates. Shani Hacha. But here in the Mishnah in Bava Kama, it's different. Because the father said to his son, Bechayav ubimoso. And when he's explicit about that, they become usher even after they leave the rishus of the father. However, if he says nechasim elu, Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish would understand from that he didn't have any kavanah to prohibit them after they leave their rishus. And herein lies the machlokus between Rav and Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. According to Rav and Shmuel, his kavanah was to generate an Iser on the nechasim even after they leave his rishus and his ownership possession terminates, and that's why the Iser is not paka b'shvius. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish, they're of the opinion that when shvius comes about, the Iser is paka. So the Gemara says, but mikol makom kasha. If this interpretation is correct, we still have no answer to that question, that given that Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish hold the nechasim elu without nechasai are not asurim after it leaves his rishus, then why did they mention the case of nechasai? They should have told me a bigger chiddush in the case of nechasim elu. Ella, says the Gemara, no. Let's interpret the machlokas in a different light. B'nechasim elu, if he had said nechasim elu kuliyamalo pligi, everybody agrees that the Iser continues to exist even after the possession is terminated. Ki pligi b'nechasai. When he said my nechasim, Rav Shmuel Sabri lo shna nechasim elu lo shna nechasai. Adam oser aflich sheyetzim ershuso. Even in the case where he said nechasai, we're going to interpret his kavanah as if he said that now they are my nechasim, but they should be aser on you li olam vad even after they cease to be my nechasai. For Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish Savri, no nechasim elu. If the nusach of the nether was nechasim without nechasai, then Adam Oser, that indicates that he wants the nether continue even beyond his rishus. But nechasai, hold it. Rav Shmuel, you're going too far. If he said nechasai, then ein Adam Oser, he's not prohibiting them liol. So again, according to this new kimta, Rav and Shmuel are going to interpret our Mishnah. Whether or not he says nechasim elu and nechasai, in both cases, the din is the same. That if the neder took place before Shvius, that neder continues to exist and enters into Shvius. But only if he was noder on Shvius itself, then the neder is not chal. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish would insist that our Mishnah is talking about a case, but Dafka, where he said nechasim elu, he didn't say nechasai. And therefore the Iser continues even after Shvius emerges. But if he would have said nechasai, then it's no longer Asa B'Shvius because that's when his Bailus is Paka. So the Gemara rejects this interpretation of Rav and Shmuel. Umi kolaman diyoma, could it be that somebody holds that lo shna nechasime lo shna nechasai? In both cases, even when he says nechasai, the din is that the Iser continues to exist even after his Rishus is Paka. Vatnan, we have a Mishnah. And this is a Mishnah later on in the Dharma Daf Memvav. Ha'omer l'chaveru kodam l'soch beischa shani nichnas. He takes a neder upon himself not to enter into his friend's house, or alternatively, sadcha shani lokeach, the sada that I'm about to purchase from you should be also. In both these cases, the din is mace. If the balbayis dies, shemacharo liacher, or he sells the bayis or the sada to someone else, mutter, the noder, who took upon himself a neder, is allowed to enter into the bayis. He's allowed to purchase the sada because the lashon beischa or sadche implies that dafka when it's his. Whereas if he would say labayis zeh shani nichnas, sada zu shani lokeh, in which case he didn't mention that it's your house, he left out the condition of bailus, then mace oshem achar liacher asur. In this case, even if the Baal Bayis or the Baal Sada dies or he sells it to someone else, the Issa continues because he didn't mention his neder, who owns the Bayis or the Sada. And he took upon himself an Issa neder, no matter whose Rishus the Bayis or the Sada is in. So we see explicitly from this Mishnah that once a person says Beiska Sadcha, he doesn't have kavanah to aser it beyond the ownership and possession of the Rishus Bailim. And therefore, if a person generates an Isra on his friend, Beloshin Nechasai, then we're going to say that his kavanah was not Liolam, but rather as long as they're in his Rishus. And at this point, the Gemara is going to say that there's no machlokes, therefore, between Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish on the one hand, and Rav and Shmuel on the other. Elaki Amri Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. When did Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish insist that a person cannot create an Iser that would continue even beyond his Rishus? That's only Binachasai when he added that these are my Nechasim. But if he took a neder b'lashon nechasim elu and he omitted mention of his possession, then it's also liola. Rav and Shmuel, on the other hand, who say that a person prohibits something even after it leaves rishus, they didn't say it, except in a case where he said nechasim elu. But if he said nechasai, then it would not be asur once his bailus terminates v'lo pligi, and therefore there's no machlokas. So it comes out that there's no machlokas whatsoever between the Amoraim, not with regard to the Mishnah, not with regard to how we rule Lidina. Everybody agrees that a person could create an Iser that will persist even after the object leaves his rishus, but that's only in a case where he says nechasim elu. But if he says nechasai, his kavanah was not that the Isa Neder should continue beyond the termination of his Rishus. Amish is talking about a case of the Chasim Elu, and therefore, if he took the Neder before Shvuos, then the Neder will continue even into Shvius. Only in the case where he was Madir with an additional stipulation of nechasai, then the neder is no longer applicable and valid after his rishus terminates. And we don't assume that when he said nechasai, he wanted this iser to go li olam, and therefore in shvius it's going to be mut. The Mishnah says, "Ubishvius ein yored l'toch sadeu." The neder is not chal on the peros in the case where he took the neder during shvius because they are hefker, but yet there's an iser with regard to the gufa soda that the mudar is not allowed to enter into the soda of the madi. Which means that in this case of shvius, and neder and shvius, the mudar has only one alternative. He has access to those peros that are beyond the rishus of the soda. Frek the Gemara, Maishno diochel min hanotos, the period of kerinu as aranami afker. The Torah said that not only the peros of a person in shvius are hefker, but even the field itself is considered what? Is considered hefker. So if that be the case, then why shouldn't we say that the Baal Asoda no longer in Shvius has Rishus or Zchus to prevent anyone from entering into his field? He doesn't have that Bailus to create that Isur. And here we have Machlokes Amoraim. Amar Ula bi'om dimilanos ala gvulim. The Mishnah that says that he's not allowed to enter in to the karka, the madir, that's talking about ilanos that are planted on the extreme borders of the field, and he can get access to the peros without entering into the field. According to in such a reality that the Torah was not mafkir the sada, the Torah's purpose, like it's kind of dechuya, was only to allow someone to get access to the peros. If he could get access to the peros without entering to the field, the Torah would not be mafkir the field itself. So that if he could get access to those ilanos that are in the middle of the field, then the mudar would be allowed to collect them, even if it meant entering into the field, because then the field is hefker. But we're talking about a situation where the ilanos were planted on the extreme borders, and there's no need to enter into the field. Rav Shimon Eliakim Omar Gzeira Shema Yishe B'Amida. According to Torah law, he's allowed to enter into the field. The Torah is mafkir the field for the purpose of collecting peros. The Chachamim made a gzeira here that we're afraid that he may remain in dilly-dally in the field itself, shalol tzorech, after he already completed the process of collecting his peros, and the Torah is not mafkir the field beyond that which is necessary for the person to receive and collect the peros. So he's going to be nenem in a karka, and the karka is owned by the madir be'isur. And therefore, even with regard to the lonos that are in the middle of the field, the Mishnah would prohibit this, not allowing him to enter into the field because we're afraid he'll remain in the field even beyond the process of likitas haperos. And finally, the Mishnah here at the end of Membeis Amid Beis, Hamudar Anomi Chaver Lo Yashilenu, he should not lend him kalim. V'lo yishal mimenu, he shouldn't borrow kalim. Lo yilavenu, he shouldn't borrow money. V'lo yilva mimenu, he shouldn't lend money. He shouldn't borrow money. V'lo yimkar lo, he shouldn't buy it from him. V'lo yikach mimenu, and he shouldn't buy from him. So shneim asurim limkar ze lezeh shumdam. So we have three things that are asur on both. And that means that just like the mudar is also to borrow kalim, or take a halva and borrow mos, or buy schar for the madir, so too, in the flip side, the mudar is enjoined from lending kalim, or lending money, or selling schar to the madir. And for the logical reason for this, we'll have to see in Mirz Shem the Gemara tomorrow. So let's just make a note of it. that we got up to Mem Gimel Amid Al.